Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ziprecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
Hey parents, you don't need the latest gizmo, slang, or clothes to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is WBNW 1120 AM, the Money Matters Radio Network. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. I'm joined today by Paul Lane to talk about our brand new guide, AI and Your Financial Plan. It's new for the month of July. And Paul, we're hearing companies all over the investment universe talking about how they're utilizing artificial intelligence in their workplace. And one of them that's been getting more and more mention is specifically in investment design and strategy. What are you hearing from major money managers when it comes to artificial intelligence?
One of the powerful things about AI is the ability to take vast amounts of data and synthesize it down into something comprehensive that's easily usable to run portfolio models out there. So utilizing price to earnings data and other financial metrics, these AI systems can collaborate with all of the data that they're provided and come out with an outcome to rebalance a portfolio and to make certain investment decisions over time.
Now, what I get worried about is companies starting to market this stuff as something that it's not. To your knowledge, is there anything out there that is actually recommending securities based on AI that has any sort of track record?
Not at this point in time. It's really important to note that this technology is in its infancy, and while it is exciting and there is a lot to be learned and further developed here, there is no proven case that there is a perfected AI model in place that's publicly available.
The brand new guide from the Armstrong Advisory Group for the month of July is called AI and Your Financial Plan. You can get your copy by calling 800-393-4001. Again, that's AI and Your Financial Plan. Get your free copy by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams, your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane.
Chuck, Paul, and Tucker with you today, and as we continue through a busy week, we continue to get more and more economic data. We continue to see more and more companies reporting what they call earnings, and we're here to talk about that because that's our job. We're going to start with a little bit of chatter about the CPI report yesterday, and overall, you look at the data that we saw, the headline number coming in at 0.3%, and the core number coming in at 0.2% for the month of June. And you say, okay, like those are not bad numbers. The headline number is higher than you'd like to see. Obviously, if you're seeing, 0.3% coming through, if you annualize that, you're talking a little bit north of 3.5% inflation. On the core number, the unrounded one came out to 0.23%. So again, you annualize it and you're looking at, about 3% annual inflation. So both of those a little bit hotter than you'd want to see, but certainly nowhere near what we were seeing in the latter part of 2021 through much of 22 when inflation was running, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% annually. It obviously was much hotter there. But we are starting to see signs, Paul, that inflation is making a rebound in some areas, and it sure looks like, at least for the next few months, we are likely to see some higher inflation readings coming through that, based on where it's showing up right now at least, I think you can pretty conclusively say this is a tariff-related phenomenon. It's not just random. Your thoughts?
It's interesting how the discussion on this has evolved because Mike and I, yesterday when we were breaking down the inflation report, we noted some of the items, and we're going to get into areas that are pretty concentrated in terms of imports, furniture, clothing, kids' toys. These are things that often are imported overseas. We did see pretty significant month-over-month upticks there, but our general sentiment was more, geez, this is perhaps one data point that points to that inflation could be getting hotter in these categories because of the impacts of tariffs. But with that same context that we usually have with these inflation reports, hey, this is 1 month of data, and we need to see this persist over several months before we can attribute it to be a trend. And that's sort of where I land, but it does seem like, just parsing through some of the pieces in our stack here, that the sentiment more, and perhaps this is because the core data, I believe, came out later yesterday afternoon, or some more inflation data,
like
came out.
The median and trimmed mean
correct,
stuff.
Yes, and perhaps that was the reason for the shift. It does seem that the sentiment more today is, okay, this report that we just saw is, proof that there are indications that the tariff impact is coming through. I'm not arguing one way or another, but it does seem like that's
kind of the point of us being here.
Well, I will argue that, hey, let's see it a couple more months before I'm willing to jump this far. There are a lot of factors that you could add to your case if you're saying that, hey, tariffs were announced in April. There has been a lot of back and forth on how they take effect, but I believe it's, according to the Yale Budget Lab, that the average effective tariff rate that Americans are facing is about 20% today. That's the highest since that we've seen since 1910. And we've talked about that it's going to take some time for the impact to be felt. Often we were saying that perhaps it wouldn't be as early as the fall or late summer. And this could be indications, this report, that we are seeing it. But to me, because it's been taking a little bit longer for it to show fruition, I would like to see another inflationary report that has similar characteristics to this one before I'm ready to make the leap on the full impact of tariffs.
I think the big thing, and the reason why I tend to think that we're starting to see it showing up, is normally when we say, okay, we saw something in the data once, let's see if this continues, it's normally because there isn't some bright line dividing, mark where you say something clearly changed before or after this. So as an example, a few weeks ago, we started seeing weekly unemployment claims moving up. And we said at the time, look, this is something we've seen each of the last 2 years. We're going to see, here are the levels that we want to see, because basically if it goes to those levels but doesn't exceed them, this is very similar to the last couple of years in terms of it's probably a bad seasonal adjustment that's been happening around this time of year, and so we need to see more data. And sure enough, what we've seen the last 3 to 4 weeks, unemployment claims, at least thus far, have peaked, they've rolled over, and they're basically behaving the exact same way they did the last couple of years, which is why we say, yeah, let's see how a couple more of these play out, because there's a pretty good chance we know what's happening here. Another example is when unemployment was rising heading into last fall. We said, okay, we've seen a couple months of rising unemployment here. We need to see more than that, because it wasn't clear that there was anything that happened last, May, June, July that would necessarily trigger a rise in unemployment. And sure enough, unemployment peaked, and it was a non-factor. The difference here is we have a clear policy change that said, hey, prices on imported goods for, everything are going to move up. The amount will vary based on, autos are tariffed higher, but everything else has this blanket 10% that's in there. And so you are going to see higher prices coming through. And so I think, in my opinion, when I actually start to see higher prices here, I say, okay, we already do have 2 data points, really. We have the imposition of tariffs, which is a clear cause, and now we have, these prices starting to move up. I think the interesting question to ask on this is, hey, how long do these prices move up, and what's the continued magnitude of them? Because just as an example, prices for linens, which I got to tell you guys, I'm buying linens left and right these days.
Stockpiling.
The tariffs are killing me the way these linens are going up in price. It's 5.5% for the month of June. I can't buy any more linens. I'm out. 5.5% for the month of June is what we saw for linen inflation. You're not going to see 5.5% on linens each, the next 6 months. That's not what you are going to see, because clearly, if you're imposing, a 10% tariff on, imports from Thailand, as an example, or Vietnam, okay, linen's prices aren't going to rise by more than the tariff, all else being equal. So you look at that and you say, okay, like that's probably going to start to taper off a little bit, but sporting equipment, prices were up 1.8%. Audio equipment was up 2.9%. There still is room for those to continue to move, and so you say, okay, what are we going to see and how long does that continue there? This all gets compounded by the fact that we've had over the last couple weeks now the different letters going out about the tariffs that are going to begin on August 1st, which, again, if you look at, where audio equipment is imported from, most of it's Southeast Asia. Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, like that's where, a lot of it comes from, South Korea. And so you sit there and you say, okay, if the tariff rate on imports from those countries is going from 10% up to anywhere from 20 to 25%, do we then see a second wave of price increases that has to end up happening as we get to later this year? And then what does that potentially do? The way this potentially becomes sticky is, hey, once it broadens beyond just, people buying those goods, and instead it's, well, you know what, I was starting a restaurant and the price of cookware is up, so now I got to raise my menu prices because pans are more expensive. Does this seep into CPI services as well and broaden out there? And then do people just say, well, we expect the cost of things are going to go up, and so it gets embedded in expectations, and this becomes a thing? I don't know if that's where we go. There's a case to be made that tariffs could be a one-time price adjustment. And we get through the next 6 months or so, and that's all we see. I'm open to that as an idea.
Sure.
I'm also open to the fact that they could become stickier and potentially, become more problematic. And we're going to have to see what the data shows over the next 6 months or so. But I do think, I suspect that at least the next few months, we're going to see some hotter inflation readings that start to come through. Not, 8%, 9% annualized. But do we see CPI tick up from, the mid-2s where it's been into the mid-3s? I think that's a possibility.
Can't rule it out.
I know that's not, as dramatic as saying nothing's wrong or everything's wrong, but sometimes things are just a little wrong, and we'll have to see how it goes. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will touch on this piece from the New York Times. Despite dire warnings, the economy is holding up. Can it last? We'll talk about that when we return.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Artificial intelligence is having a profound effect on daily business. Its reach and result is significant and will likely only continue to grow, and that may present an incredible opportunity to include in a financial plan for the future. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. AI's technologies could be described as groundbreaking, and that's why we've written a new guide this month called AI in Your Financial Plan. Understanding how AI works may offer you insight and information about how to craft a plan that you haven't yet thought of, but it's not without risk. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide today. That's 800-393-4001. You can also request this guide online by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
If you or a loved one needs a nursing home stay and you aren't prepared, the expense can be devastating to your savings. Understanding the Medicaid process is a key element to any successful estate plan. So call Cushing & Dolan today and request their new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll walk you through any changes to the Medicaid rules, how to adjust to those changes, and best practices that can help educate you on how to manage expenses you might incur down the road. Don't leave your assets to chance. Let the experts at Cushing & Dolan help you protect your wealth and keep it away from the nursing home. Call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free copy of this new guide, Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. That's 866-848-5699. You can also request the guide online by visiting their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up.
Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. 3 stunning islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, all just a quick flight away. No passport required, just sunshine, soft sand, and that warm island vibe. Craving a break? Plan your fall escape now and experience the beauty of America's Caribbean paradise, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Book today at visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Piece here in the New York Times. Despite dire warnings, the economy is holding up. Can that last? And the piece kind of goes through, a bunch of different data and says, well, we're not sure. There are some signs that tariff-related inflation may be starting to show up. There are some signs that the labor market is a little bit weaker. And ultimately, I'm going to put a ticking clock on this, just like we did with the idea of a soft landing. Like, you can't be watching to see if the soft landing breaks down, until 2040. We basically said, look, if unemployment and inflation haven't, gone up meaningfully by the end of last year, the Fed can take a victory lap on the soft landing, and I think that stands up. Likewise, hey, if you don't see either any kind of large-scale layoffs, recession, economic weakness, or any huge jump in prices by the end of this year, I think you can put the whole tariff thing to bed as well. So I think there's a ticking clock where, yeah, there's still some questions as to what the tariff impact is going to be, but I think if they haven't been answered negatively by the end of this year, it's not tariffs that are causing whatever's happening.
You're right. They mentioned in this piece here, Goldman Sachs did a study last week that initially they indicated that consumers were picking up 10% of the tariff-related increases on prices. Now they're seeing that at 40% within that 3-month sort of period that we've had tariffs in place for.
Not 40% price increases, but consumers are absorbing that percentage of the cost.
Absorbing the percentage of the cost,
yes.
Yeah. So important distinction to make. But really what we've seen here is the feedback from retailers anecdotally is this significant reluctance to raise prices. And so to further your point on this idea that, okay, let's set sort of a deadline for this, we can't just sit here in October and November, and if we don't have an uptick in inflation and don't have a slowdown in economic growth or unemployment, and say we're still waiting, Chuck. A couple more months of data.
You can't do that.
You can't do that anymore. You have to, because then, heck, at that point we'll be over 6 to 8 months into sort of tariffs being in place. There has to be sort of a conclusive point that you can finally draw from this, and that's really where we saw it. Initially, a lot of the feedback was negative consumer confidence after all the initial announcements, a lot of uncertainty from businesses. Now, over the course of the next couple months, August 1st, I guess, being the next deadline that we're going to keep our eyes on, there should be an end to what the policies are going to look like. And then by the fall into the winter, we're going to know how America has sort of digested all of the impact from tariffs. And to this point, though we talked earlier in the show about the impacts of the inflation report we just saw, it has been inconclusive. And so that is the question for the next, call it 2 to 3 months, is it muted and this just passes through and we're on to focusing about the next concern with the economy, or is this something that will slow things down? That's what we need to follow.
Yeah, it's something where the effects are going to show up somewhere. It's just a question of, are they big enough to matter? And can the market and can companies look through them? So as an example, you had, I think, again, you're running at this point, it's about a $300 to $400 billion annual run rate for tariff collection. That's what we saw from the latest data for June. And so if you look at that, you say, okay, so this is an additional cost that's being paid by U.S. importers. If they can absorb a chunk of that and just say, okay, our margins are going to be not great for now, but we'll figure out how to deal with this, maybe the market can end up looking through that, and that margin compression is, a one-time thing, and it goes away. Or maybe consumers, as you mentioned, hey, they're paying some of this and they don't really like it, but all that happens is they spend less on air travel, which is what we're seeing, and maybe they buy a little bit less, but, you end up kind of weaseling your way through. If you see, bigger changes start to happen in the coming months, then you kind of say, okay, this was, too big to absorb, and now you're kind of seeing, the economy falter as a result of that. But again, if you look at the data that we have, which is, largely through Q2 at this point, there are still a few things that we're missing. We're going to get some retail sales data that comes out later this week. We're still waiting on, some late housing data and stuff like that. But I think we have a pretty good picture of what Q2 looks like right now. And the Atlanta Fed runs their GDP nowcast of GDP growth, and they've got Q2 GDP growth running at 2.6% at the moment, which is fine. It's not great given, hey, you had a decline in Q1, and so if you look at the first half as kind of one chunk, based on the fact that imports and exports were really skewed across those couple quarters. You say, okay, so GDP growth ends up running somewhere around like 1 to 1.5%. It's not great, but it's also something where we've had plenty of, halves of years where that happens, and you just kind of muddle through and you're on to the next one and you go from there. So I think overall the take that I have right now on the U.S. economy is, yeah, there are definitely some areas to be concerned about. Housing and the labor market, I think, are the two biggest ones. But to this point, there hasn't been a breakdown in either of them. They've just kind of slowed and aren't great, but are hanging out there and, chopping around doing their thing. There is the potential that things accelerate and things get better in the second half. I think you could make a case for that, given the potential for, increased business investment if tariffs become a little bit more certain. Some of the changes to fixed investment in the way it's treated from a tax perspective in the reconciliation package that happened, that has some potentially positive influence on construction in the U.S. There's also the case that things could get worse if the tariff impact is just really delayed and now it starts to show up in Q3. You could see a meaningful worsening. But by the end of this year, we're going to put this question to bed, one way or another. Like we're not going to be talking at the end of this year, hey, are tariffs causing an impact or not? We're going to have enough data to be able to say, yes, they did, or no, they didn't. And then we can move on.
Yeah, you had mentioned the parallels earlier to last fall and the labor market. The SOM rule was something that we talked about on the show. The idea that if you were to see a 0.5% increase in unemployment over a trailing 3-month period, that could indicate that the labor market's slowing down. And what I learned from that is just the point that you're making earlier, is that just because you have a data trend, you have to see it sort of really follow through. And that's what the next 3 months or 4 months are about, is seeing if we continue to see continued impact.
We're going to take a quick little breakaroo right now, but when we come back, we got Wall Street Watch, and then Todd Lutsky from Cushing and Dolan joins us after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about techniques that can help protect your assets from long-term care expenses last minute. Todd, what happens to your home when a spouse enters a nursing home and no planning has been done? And is it different for single individuals?
Yeah, so very good question, and the answer is yes, it is different. So let's talk about the spouse first. When you're married, if you have a spouse living in the home, regardless of the value of the home, as long as it's located in Massachusetts, it's non-countable. And it's non-lienable. So it's really, truly protected. Now, don't leave it that way. Make sure you put it 100% in the name of the healthy spouse after that happens. However, for a single individual, it's a little different. As long as the value doesn't exceed $1,071,000, there's a number that changes every year. It goes up. Then it would be countable if it's worth more than that. If it's worth less than that and you check a box that you intend to return home, it's non-countable, but it's lienable. But so what? Getting on the Medicaid at the Medicaid rate is better than paying privately.
Todd Lutsky and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details last-minute Medicaid eligibility. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can simply request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, earnings season continues to chug along with more banks reporting this morning in addition to Johnson & Johnson. Wall Street's also reacting to the Producer Price Index, where producer prices rose 2.3% annually, softer than forecasts of 2.5%. Markets are mostly quiet at the moment. Dow is up by 0.1% or 67 points. S&P 500 is up by only 4 points, and the NASDAQ is up merely 10 points. Russell 2000 is up over 0.5% or 12 points. 10-year Treasury yield is down by 4 basis points today at 4.44%, and crude oil is off 1% today, trading at $65.80 a barrel. Bank of America shares down by over 0.5% after it posted higher than expected earnings while its revenue fell short of forecasts. Morgan Stanley beat second quarter earnings and revenue estimates. However, that stock is pulling back over 2%, and Goldman Sachs stock is down nearly 1% despite the bank reporting a stronger than expected quarterly profit driven by a pickup in deal making and surging trading. Outside of banks, Johnson & Johnson beat second quarter earnings and revenue forecasts, where the pharmaceutical giant also raised its full-year guidance for several metrics. That stock now up over 4%. Meanwhile, ASML warned it may see no growth in 2026 due to increasing uncertainty from tariffs, sending shares in the semiconductor maker down by 10%. And tomorrow morning, ahead of the opening bell, we'll see second quarter results from Taiwan Semiconductor, GE Aerospace, Novartis, Abbott Labs, and Pepsi. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
And we are now joined by Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. We got the phone lines open because the segment is Ask Todd, where you get to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now. 888-205-2263 is the number. We do have limited space on the phone. In fact, we got someone calling right now. So if you got a question for Todd, get in line by calling 888-205-2263 so we can get to your estate planning questions. That number again is 888-205-2263. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm afraid to ask you though.
I'm doing great actually.
Yeah?
I got a new side hustle.
Side gig.
I'm getting paid to do a sleep study.
Oh, yeah?
It's actually my dream job.
I would think so. That's pretty good.
Todd, I want to talk a little bit about last-minute Medicaid situations. Or I guess qualifying for Medicaid in kind of a last-minute situation.
Sure.
Let's say someone is heading into a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that can be done in order to protect real estate assets in that type of emergency situation.
So do you want to talk about any real estate, or do you want to talk, because there's different, vacation,
I'm glad you asked,
rentals.
because on my list here I had primary, vacation, and rental, all with question marks after them.
Okay, so should we pick one?
Let's start with primary residence.
So primary residence is the most important one. Most people have it, after all, and it's treated differently for a married couple versus single people. So quite frankly, for a married couple, if you have gotten sick and you're faced with one spouse going in the nursing home, as long as the healthy spouse is living in that home and it is the primary residence of the healthy spouse and it is located in Massachusetts, then it is considered non-countable, period. Hard stop. You do not need to show it as an asset, and it is non-lienable, meaning doesn't matter how long your spouse stays in the nursing home. When that spouse passes away, assuming, of course, they pass away in order, that there will be no estate recovery for the state to get paid back. Now, you don't want to leave the house that way, so if that was the only asset and you got eligible for Medicaid after making that the house was probably owned jointly, right? Don't leave it that way, because if you die out of order, then that jointly held house would end up in the hands of the sick spouse who's in the nursing home, and that's different. So we don't love that. So change it, put it in the healthy spouse's name on their own, and then, of course, do planning for the healthy spouse after eligibility. I promised you that we talk about it also for a single person. If you're single, it's a little different. Primary residence located in Massachusetts, and you had been living there before you went to the nursing home, and you went directly to the nursing home from the house. Then you need to check a box, believe it or not, that the house is someplace you intend to return home to, even though you may never be able to do that. Doesn't matter. It's a subjective intent. Then it would be non-countable, provided, however, that it is not exceeding this dollar amount, which, by the way, is changing under the new BBB Act. But for now, it's approximately $1,033,000 in Massachusetts. And it seems to be indexed for inflation. If it exceeds that value, then you're denied Medicaid, hard stop. If it doesn't, then you're going to be non-countable, so you can get on Medicaid, which is great, much lower rate, but it's lienable. So when you die, there'll be a payback to the state, but at a much lower rate, so it's still a win. Better than writing the big check.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. We do still have room on the phone lines at 888-205-2263. So if you've got questions about estate planning, this is your chance to ask them. That phone number again is 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, it's going to be right to your questions with Todd. Again, we still have just a little bit of room there, so get calling so you can ask Todd your questions. That number is 888-205-2263. One more time, 888-205-2263.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Summer's here, New England, and it's the perfect time to trade the daily routine for something extraordinary. Say hello to the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Explore the vibrant history and flavor of St. Croix, lounge on the stunning beaches of St. Thomas, or find your peace on the quiet shores of St. John. From the moment you arrive, you'll feel it. You're naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no passport needed, no currency to exchange, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable experiences waiting for you. Whether you're planning a romantic escape, a family adventure, or a little of both, this is the summer to make it happen. Go to visitusvi.com to learn more and start planning. That's visitusvi.com. Your island getaway is closer than you think. The U.S. Virgin Islands, where summer never ends. Book your trip today at visitusvi.com. Changes to Medicaid occur almost every year, and if you're not informed, your assets could be at risk, especially if you or your spouse need nursing home care. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law, and their new guide is called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll help you understand the Medicaid process, which is critically important if you're retired or getting close to retiring. The guide has important information regarding numerous strategies that can protect your assets from the nursing home. It could be your primary home, a vacation home, or any rental property you may own. You've worked hard to achieve wealth, so don't take chances when it comes to protecting it. Get your copy of Cushing & Dolan's brand new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Call right now. 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Artificial intelligence isn't just the future, it's already shaping how people think about their money. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We've put together a new guide called AI in Your Financial Plan. In it, we explore the ways that AI is being used in financial technology, from apps that track spending to tools that can help identify trends. It's a rapidly changing space, and this guide is designed to help you understand some of the potential benefits and risks that AI may present. Want to learn more? Call 800-393-4001 and request your free copy of AI in Your Financial Plan. That's 800-393-4001 or visit ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, let's get right to your questions with Todd Lutsky. First up, we got Gene in Medway. Gene, you're on with Todd.
Hello. Thank you very much. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Gene.
About 10 years ago, you helped my husband and me set up 2 irrevocable trusts. We put our assets in those.
Okay.
My husband died in 2020, and you helped me again to do the legal work required.
Good.
And my husband's trust then became remainder share.
Yes.
Now we're selling the property in Virginia.
Okay.
It's been a rental for over 40 years, and we're now we're selling it. My son is the trustee, so he's handling everything for me. We have a buyer.
Yep.
We have a settlement date.
Good.
I never changed the deed to read that the trust was a remainder share. Does that matter?
It's not going to prevent the sale. Let's put it that way. It's not going to prevent the sale. But, you know, it may or may not, depending on the size of the estate, which I cannot answer without pulling your file and looking at it. It may or may not matter. Have you ever rented this property over the years since 2020?
It's still rented, yes.
Okay,
the rental contract ends at the end of July.
Yeah, so you know, it's probably not going to be an issue, number one. It's just that you might want to just retitle it now to the remainder share and then deed it out of the remainder share, or sell it, you know, from the remainder share so you could deposit the money into the remainder share under a new tax ID number, which if we opened up the remainder share, we would have got you that new tax ID number long ago because you've probably been receiving the rent and depositing it in a bank account in that trust, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're probably doing everything right. You have to understand, without the file in front of me, it sounds like you're doing it right, and it's definitely going to be able to be sold. But you might want to just call in and just talk to me off air a little bit so I can have the details of exactly what you're doing in front of me. But it does sound like it'll be okay. All right? So I hope that helps a little, and give us a ring. Thanks for that call, and I'm glad to see. And, folks, that does show you how flexible these trusts are. They live on, and they work really well. But lots of times people don't have time to do planning, and they're stuck with this last-minute situation where they enter a nursing home. That's what this guide is about this month. It's all about taking care of assets last minute, whether it's a house that we talked about earlier with Chuck, or a piece of rental property, or a vacation home. They're treated differently. Life insurance, 401ks, bank accounts that are jointly held with a spouse or a non-spouse. How are they treated versus investment accounts? All these answers are in the guide. Last minute, countable, non-countable assets, and even how to avoid the 5-year waiting period for certain limited situations. My comment to you is just don't write the check, folks. If you're faced with nursing home care, get this guide. Learn what you can do last minute to protect these assets before you write the check. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com, and you can download the guide right there.
Todd, we got another one here for you. Let's go to Eric in Springfield. Eric, what's your question for Todd Lutsky?
Good morning, guys. My mother's going to be giving me and my wife $20,000 to help pay for my son's school.
Okay.
Is she going to be on the hook if she goes to a nursing home for that 5-year look back?
Yeah. Anytime you make a gift, and this is what the rule really says, is anytime you make a disqualifying transfer. Now, what the heck is that? A disqualifying transfer that creates a 5-year waiting period is anytime you take an asset, like $20,000, that was available for the nursing home and put it somewhere where it's no longer available for the nursing home and not take back fair market value for what you gave away, you have a disqualifying transfer for 5 years. So, unfortunately, the answer is yes. Each and every time those gifts were made, they will be a 5-year waiting period associated with each gift. That does not mean that there's not last-minute things we can do to fix that problem if you find her or she finds herself faced with nursing home care. So, hopefully that helped a little.
Todd, I got another for you. Let's go to Dan in New Hampshire. Dan, you're on with Todd Lutsky.
Thanks for taking the time, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, I've got a purchase going on of some property. It's going to be a cash deal. I currently have a revocable trust. Can that go into that revocable trust, or is there a process? And it's a revocable trust of like 2008.
How is this property owned currently? Is it in your name? Is it in you and your wife's name?
It's a purchase. It's a purchase.
Oh, I see. So you're going to be buying the property. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. So you're going to be buying the property. So you can do one of two things. If you've set it up right, you can make the purchaser the revocable trust. Are you borrowing money to buy this?
No.
So you can make the purchaser on the P&S you as trustee of the revocable trust, and that way the deed from the seller will be deeded directly into the trust. Many people don't do this. Many people don't remember or think about it. That's just an option. If you've not done it that way, you can simply close the deal and get the deed in your own name, and then go to your estate planning attorney and have another deed prepared transferring the property from you to the revocable trust, and then it will be in there. So it's either 2 steps or 1 step, but you are absolutely right. It belongs in your revocable trust for sure.
Todd, I got one more for you here. We got Philip on the Cape. Philip, what is your question for Todd Lutsky?
Hi, Todd. 7 years ago, you did a irrevocable trust for me for the properties, and I'm asking now, can I swap one of the properties in Massachusetts for a property in Florida and put it. Does it go in the irrevocable trust?
So when you say swap, I don't understand that. What does that mean, swap? Are these properties already in the trust, or are you selling and buying a new one?
Selling and buying a new one.
Oh, okay. So the answer is going to be a quick yes, but let me explain it. So if it's in the trust already, which it is, and 7 years ago, by the way, that's very important for all of the listeners in general. 7 years ago means that these properties are beyond that 5-year waiting period that we just heard about when Eric asked the question. So these are already protected from the nursing home. So now the question is, I want to sell my Mass property and buy Florida property. Perfectly okay. So what will happen is you'll prepare a P&S. The trustee of the trust will sign it. Property will then go out of the trust to the buyer, and the buyer will cut a check to the trustee of the trust and deposit it in the trust bank account. Do not put it in your personal name even for 1 second. It needs to go directly into the irrevocable trust. Now, the money's in the irrevocable trust that you're going to use, I suspect, to buy this new Florida property. So now out will go the money to the seller, and in will come the new property you're buying into the trust. Again, directly into the trust. If you do that transaction, there will be no resetting of the 5-year waiting period. Because remember, folks, nothing new went in. All we did was change what was in there from one investment to another. So now you continue to have all these assets fully protected from the nursing home. And since these trusts are grantor trusts for income tax purposes, your capital gains tax liability is exactly the same as it would have been had you sold the property not in these trusts. Just to say, in case this is your primary residence, what I mean by that is if it's your primary residence and you had used it for 2 of the last 5 years, you'll get your $250,000 exclusion, or if you're married, your $500,000 exclusion. So I hope that helps and answers the question for you.
Mr. Lutsky, as always, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Still got a bunch coming up as we continue to digest what is going on in markets. We're going to be talking a little bit about what we're seeing from treasuries. We got a bunch of bank earnings that we're going to be getting to. And, of course, no show would be complete without a discussion of, hey, who's going to hit up the Federal Reserve after Jay Powell either his term is up or, in the event that the Trump administration tries to give him the boot. So we got all that and more coming up in hour 2 in just a bit.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Summer's here, New England, and it's the perfect time to trade the daily routine for something extraordinary. Say hello to the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Explore the vibrant history and flavor of St. Croix, lounge on the stunning beaches of St. Thomas, or find your peace on the quiet shores of St. John. From the moment you arrive, you'll feel it. You're naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no passport needed, no currency to exchange, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable experiences waiting for you. Whether you're planning a romantic escape, a family adventure, or a little of both, this is the summer to make it happen. Go to visitusvi.com to learn more and start planning. That's visitusvi.com. Your island getaway is closer than you think. The U.S. Virgin Islands, where summer never ends. Book your trip today at visitusvi.com. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Changes to Medicaid occur almost every year, and if you're not informed, your assets could be at risk, especially if you or your spouse need nursing home care. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law, and their new guide is called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll help you understand the Medicaid process, which is critically important if you're retired or getting close to retiring. The guide has important information regarding numerous strategies that can protect your assets from the nursing home. It could be your primary home, a vacation home, or any rental property you may own. You've worked hard to achieve wealth, so don't take chances when it comes to protecting it. Get your copy of Cushing & Dolan's brand new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Call right now, 866-848-5699.
That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. I'm joined today by Paul Lane to talk about our brand new guide for the month of July, AI and Your Financial Plan. Paul, one of the big areas that is a pain point for a lot of folks is working on their budget. It's kind of the step one for your financial plan. And I know there's a number of tools that are starting to incorporate AI in their budgeting plans. How is this starting to work and benefit folks?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Mike, it's an area which is really difficult. You ask a lot of the clients that we meet with on a regular basis, how much do you spend on a monthly basis? Simple question, but hard to come up with that answer. What these AI tools can do is aggregate all of your total spending together, categorize different areas, and use that data to try and project what you may spend in the future. This is a critical step in the retirement planning process to get a sense for what are you spending today and can you afford to spend that much in the future. It is important to note, certainly, that there are drawbacks that come with it too.
Yeah, talk to me.
This is a technology that's in its early stages, and it's only as good as the data that's fed to it. There can be some issues sometimes with properly categorizing certain types of expenses over time, and as such, you have to be very careful when you're using this type of technology and perhaps vet it against your own assumptions through that old school spreadsheet fashion as well.
It's always a good idea, but especially when we're talking about brand new emerging technologies. Folks, the brand new guide from the Armstrong Advisory Group is all about AI and how it could affect your financial planning strategy. If you would like to get your free copy, call the Armstrong Advisory Group at 800-393-4001. The guide again is AI and Your Financial Plan. It's available at 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane.
Chuck, Paul, and Tucker with you here, and we got markets not really doing much of anything. You know, it's like you're kind of poking them with a stick like, hey, do something, and they won't really do that. They just want to do nothing. We got the Dow up 49 points, about 0.1%. The S&P's up 3 points, about 0.20%. And the NASDAQ is up 3 points, about 0.50%. So there's just not much movement happening overall. Under the surface, you do have a little bit of an interesting rotation that is happening today, where you've got semiconductor stocks getting bludgeoned, just like bopped on the head repeatedly right now. They're down about almost 2% overall. This on the back of ASML, the Dutch company that makes the lithography machines that help to make semiconductors. They indicated earlier after their earnings call that they are not sure if they are going to see growth in 2026 yet. They think it's possible, but they're not sure. And so ASML is down 10% and dragging most of the semiconductor sector with it as well. Other than that, 10-year Treasury is down 3 basis points to 4.457%. And we've got oil today off 86 cents a barrel on West Texas Intermediate at 65.66. Gold is up $10.20 an ounce to 33.46 and 90 cents. But overall, a pretty quiet day on the surface. The only other thing that I will add that's of note is just a few minutes ago, I said to Tucker, what was that? And he went, what? And I go, well, the S&P 500 just fell 15 points in a minute. So, like, what's going on? And it turned out it was right as CBS News reported that during a meeting with Republican lawmakers yesterday, President Trump asked them whether or not he should fire Jerome Powell. And so that was the cause for the 1 minute of volatility in the S&P 500. Let's talk a little bit about earnings, because we've got a bunch of them this week, mostly bank earnings, but a few other companies reporting as well before the real heavy hitters start in the next 2 weeks. But we've got Bank of America and Goldman Sachs both out with earnings. And best I can tell, Paul, not being, a dedicated banking analyst, but best I can tell, earnings were pretty darn solid on all the major banks. And so we continue to see no major signs of stress from what they're telling us about how their customers are behaving.
Yeah, JP Morgan had some good numbers that came out yesterday. We talked about those on the show. I would say the recurring themes across the three major banks here that we're discussing, JP Morgan yesterday and Bank of America and Goldman Sachs that came out this morning, is you saw an increase in trading revenue across all these major banks here in Q2. A lot of that was driven by the volatility that we saw in markets in April, allowing them to... In Goldman Sachs' case, we saw a significant jump, 36% increase year over year in terms of its Q2 number. So that was pretty strong. You also had on the mergers and acquisition side of things, B of A, Bank of America was the one category that they fared, I guess, not as well as JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs did here, but on Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, you saw an increase on mergers and acquisitions fees. That is important because it's showing that the business cycle is resuming after what was likely a pretty significant pause in the month of April there. So those would be sort of the biggest takeaways: increase in investment banking revenues, or better than anticipated increases there on the major banks, and then also seeing an increase on the trading revenue side there. So all these banks' reports, like you mentioned, none of these are overly concerning, and the sentiments from CEOs have been that the consumer has held, relatively resilient, particularly looking back at Q2 numbers and in Q3 here. It seems as if things are in relatively good stasis at the moment.
Yeah, it meshes with a lot of the broader economic data that we've seen, which is, hey, at least in Q2, the economy really didn't change course dramatically from what it was doing previously. It might have slowed a little bit, but not in areas that, would impact what the banks are seeing. And so by and large, the economy, as we've continued to say for the last couple of years, hey, it is pretty darn resilient and dynamic at this point. And, we'll have to see what the second half brings. But so far, banks not really seeing any troubling signs. And I think that has to be an encouraging sign for the overall health of the U.S. economy, given, kind of their insight into what they see, with, millions of customers and billions of dollars changing hands every day. They get a pretty good sense of what's going on in the economy.
Yeah, the only last one I'll add that we talked a little bit about yesterday, Wells Fargo, which is kind of on a different track than the rest of the bank stocks. Their numbers weren't particularly strong that came out yesterday, but that's more of some of the constraints that they've dealt with from asset growth size over the last 8 years since that scandal that they battled in 2017.
Yeah, Wells Fargo's kind of the
black sheep.
I was going to go, they're like you watch The Lion King?
Sure, of course.
Which one?
There's only one.
The original, obviously. They're the dumb hyena.
Oh, yeah, I don't know their names.
I forget.
I got to get my son into it. He's not there yet.
They are the American version of Credit Suisse.
Or
Deutsche Bank.
Sure.
I guess there's a lot of European banks that fit that category.
I've had some trouble.
But, like that's kind of, you look at JP Morgan, you're like, wow, like Jamie Dimon runs Ed. Yes,
yeah.
Ed. Yeah, Wells Fargo is Ed. Can we tweet that out?
I had to throw the shade at them because I covered all the major ones here and excluded them.
No, let's be honest. They've been the most poorly run large bank in the last decade, and it's not even close in the United States.
Without a doubt.
There's no one else that even comes close to it. They've had multiple different scandals. They've had...
because last decade is all 2015 to 2025, so you can't even lump in any of the great financial crisis stuff.
They've had a ton of different scandals. Their growth has lagged all their industry peers, and what used to be... And the sad thing is, you look at like the previous 2-3 decades, and they stood out because of how high quality their business was. I mean, they were like Warren Buffett's, favorite company. It was like, oh, like this is my baby.
The service and the reputational part that they had. What I had forgotten is that the Fed had stepped in and curbed their asset growth over the last 8 years, an unprecedented measure. And I was just revisiting that yesterday as we went through that. That is why it's been a challenging 8 years for good reason there.
Take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Trip Mickle from the New York Times. We're talking about NVIDIA after this.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Artificial intelligence is having a profound effect on daily business. Its reach and result is significant and will likely only continue to grow, and that may present an incredible opportunity to include in a financial plan for the future. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. AI's technologies could be described as groundbreaking, and that's why we've written a new guide this month called AI in Your Financial Plan. Understanding how AI works may offer you insight and information about how to craft a plan that you haven't yet thought of, but it's not without risk. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide today. That's 800-393-4001. You can also request this guide online by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Summer's here, New England, and it's the perfect time to trade the daily routine for something extraordinary. Say hello to the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Explore the vibrant history and flavor of St. Croix. Lounge on the stunning beaches of St. Thomas, or find your peace on the quiet shores of St. John. From the moment you arrive, you'll feel it. You're naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no passport needed, no currency to exchange, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable experiences waiting for you. Whether you're planning a romantic escape, a family adventure, or a little of both, this is the summer to make it happen. Go to visitusvi.com to learn more and start planning. That's visitusvi.com. Your island getaway is closer than you think. The U.S. Virgin Islands, where summer never ends. Book your trip today at visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, as promised, we're now joined by the one and only Trip Mickle from the New York Times, here to chat a little bit about NVIDIA. Trip, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. It's been busy in NVIDIA land the past week.
It has been. I know Jensen's been all over the place. He was in the White House. He's in China now, and so things are busy. And obviously, the big thing, NVIDIA topped $4 trillion in market cap. First company to ever hit that metric. How did they get there from being just another chip maker, another semiconductor manufacturer subject to the whims of these CapEx cycles to being a $4 trillion company now?
They weren't just another semiconductor maker. They were really like a niche semiconductor maker that started their business 3 decades ago making chips for video games. But the chips that they made, which are called graphic processing units, are capable of doing multiple computations simultaneously, thousands of them, right? This is an order of magnitude of what you of the kind of performance and capabilities you get out of the traditional chips that we use in our computers. And Jensen recognized more than a decade ago that the power of those chips could potentially allow the creation of artificial intelligence, which is something that computer scientists have been talking about delivering for decades. And so he spent billions of dollars on software to make the chips capable of building artificial intelligence systems. He was attacked by activist investors over these investments. People thought he was crazy, but essentially years before anyone else thought AI systems could be built, Jensen bet his entire business on it, and he was right. I mean, he delivered a supercomputer to a startup called OpenAI in 2016 that almost nobody had heard of, and 6 years later, they delivered ChatGPT, and it set off such a frenzy for NVIDIA GPUs and chips that Jensen was having dinner with Elon Musk and Larry Ellison, and they were literally begging him for more chips. I mean, he couldn't make them fast enough to deliver and fulfill the appetite in the marketplace for them.
When you look at the semiconductor space, the one thing that at least historically has been true is, hey, if you have fat margins in that space, they typically get eaten into over time. NVIDIA's got some really fat margins right now. Is there anything unique that prevents them from falling into that same trap of seeing those margins eaten away in the coming 3, 4, 5, 6 years?
I'm gonna answer this question by talking about another dominant computer technology company, and that's Apple. And part of the reason we've seen Apple rake in 85% of the profits in the smartphone market is it makes not only the smartphone, but also the software for that smartphone. NVIDIA is essentially structured the same way because Jensen made this bet on building software to control these chips. He built a software system called CUDA, and that's really what everyone relies on to build their AI systems. It's kind of the default preference for developers. And he's got this massive loyal base of users that are committed to that software, which means they're also committed to his hardware. And it's that kind of software-hardware lock-in that we've seen that was so effective for Apple that's also paying dividends for NVIDIA.
When we look at the big question for NVIDIA, in my opinion, it's it's kind of related to the idea of these CapEx cycles where we see these in semiconductors and it's just brutal on the backside of them. Is there any indication that what we're seeing with AI spending right now is a normal CapEx cycle that's just supercharged, or is this unique and, hey, this is going to keep building because of that desire for the big tech companies to get to artificial general intelligence, AGI?
We have several years of runway left in this build out. But you're right. I mean, right now, these companies are really spending big time bucks on this. Part of the investment thesis on NVIDIA is that that the company updates its chips on an annual basis, and the chips performance is improves so much that people will re-up and buy new versions of those chips. So even as you kind of spin the ball forward and look out on the horizon, there's potential, if you're bullish on the company, that they will continue to have tremendous sales going forward. Will they have the explosive growth they've enjoyed over the past couple of years? I mean, when you go from a profit of like $4 billion a year to $74 billion in a span of 2 years, like, it's really hard to replicate that, right? The law of large numbers begins to catch up with you. But they have the promise and potential to sustain these high numbers that they're posting and putting up on a quarterly basis for some time to come.
Very good. Trip, appreciate you joining us today. Obviously, just fascinating stuff going on with NVIDIA, and we appreciate you chatting with us about what it is they're doing.
All right. Thanks so much. Great to reconnect with you all. See you.
Absolutely. That is Trip Mickle from the New York Times talking about NVIDIA.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and today's Will Ferrell's 58th birthday. Will Ferrell is the highest-grossing comedic actor in history with just under $4 billion in box office returns. Ferrell's run in movies has been legendary, but it all started for him as a cast member of Saturday Night Live. So, trivia question today, how many seasons was Will Ferrell a cast member of SNL? Once again, how many seasons was Will Ferrell a cast member of SNL? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
We've got markets on the move here. S&P 500 just sold off about 0.5% in the last couple minutes. The U.S. dollar is getting absolutely bludgeoned, now down about 0.2% in the last few minutes as well. 30-year Treasury is up 4 basis points. 10-year is now flat. This on a report. I don't know who had it originally, but I see it's published on Bloomberg. I'll quote here. President Donald Trump is likely to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell soon, a White House official said, and discussed the possible move in a meeting with congressional Republicans on Tuesday night. While lawmakers voiced support for the move, which would likely roil financial markets and lead to a consequential legal showdown, Trump has not made a final decision and could change his mind, according to the official who requested anonymity to discuss a private conversation. So here's what I can tell you based on my read of this. For the last couple weeks now, we've had the stories floated from the White House surrounding the Fed renovation and the costs of that renovation. Now we've had a couple different things in the last day or two with these trial balloons being floated. This is typically how you end up making a decision. I don't think this is entirely a done deal, but this is looking more and more likely because you don't float this stuff just to do nothing. You already could beat up on Jay Powell and the Fed all that you wanted to without having to go down this road. You just keep saying he's not lowering rates enough, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. He provides you a nice foil in there. And this stuff to me feels a little bit more intentional as far as why it's being published. And I really start to wonder if they have in fact already made the decision to move forward with firing him. But you do have markets acting pretty darn disjointed right now in the last 15, 20 minutes here. And we'll have to see how this ends up playing out, because this is not the kind of stuff that you typically like to see in markets, with currencies moving that much and yields moving in the opposite direction. That tends to be pretty spooky and ends up usually blowing something up somewhere in markets.
So, to be clear, they had floated out these stories regarding the cost of the renovations of the Federal Reserve building, right?
They're saying numbers. The theory is that could be the cause that they would allow that would allow them to fire Jay Powell.
And so then next we're looking at a legal dispute as to whether or not that's justification for grounds of termination.
Probably.
Always something.
I'm just here, and I'm just here.
Yields aren't moving. The 10-year not moving too much in the news.
Here's the wild stuff that's happening in the yield curve. The 2-year Treasury is down 7 basis points. This on the expectation that if they move forward with this, you'd see more rate cuts in the short term. The long end, the 20-year and 30-year, both are seeing yields blowing out to the upside, a reversal of about 7 or 8 basis points from where they were earlier. And even the 10-year is up 3 basis points from where it was and basically flat now. Quick break. When we come back, we got the trivia answer.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Artificial intelligence is constantly evolving and can even be a revolutionary asset to a financial strategy. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide is called AI and Your Financial Plan. In it, we explain how artificial intelligence continues to make inroads into our daily lives and how the advent of its technologies may affect an existing or future financial plan. AI serves the public in a variety of ways, from apps to monitor personal finances to tools that analyze investments. AI is not the future anymore. Its effect is felt by businesses of all kinds on a daily basis. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online by visiting us at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about techniques that can help protect your assets from long-term care expenses last minute. Todd, is the healthy spouse allowed to keep anything when the sick spouse enters a nursing home? And what happens if the sick spouse has the majority of the income?
Great question, because when you're talking about applying for Medicaid last minute, or when someone enters a nursing home and you want to do this last minute, they're going to look at both assets and income, right? So from an asset standpoint, as a married couple, they do allow you to keep approximately $148,000. That piece is indexed for inflation or changes every year. The sick spouse is allowed to keep $2,000. So you're around $150,000 of total assets that you can keep. By the way, if you're single, you only get to keep $2,000 in assets. From an income perspective, the good news is that the healthy spouse can keep all of the healthy spouse's income, Social Security, pension, you name it. And so it does not matter how much income the healthy spouse has, but they are entitled to at least a minimum monthly maintenance needs allowance, but no maximum.
Todd Lutsky and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details last-minute Medicaid eligibility. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That number again is 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Breaking news as of moments ago after a White House official said that President Trump is likely to fire Fed Chairman Jerome Powell soon and discuss the possible move with congressional Republicans last night. Bloomberg reporting that Trump has not made a final decision and could change his mind. Right now, markets are adding to their losses. Dow is off by 0.1% or 47 points. S&P 500 is off 0.4% or 26 points. NASDAQ now down 100 points or about 0.5% lower. Russell 2000 is edging 3 points higher. 10-year Treasury yield down by 1 basis point, now at 4.479%. And crude oil is off about 0.8%, trading right around $66 a barrel. More bank earnings to report this morning. Bank of America shares down over 1% after it posted higher than expected earnings while its revenue fell short of forecasts. Morgan Stanley beat second quarter earnings and revenue estimates. However, that stock is retreating 3%. Goldman Sachs down nearly 0.5% despite the bank reporting a stronger than expected quarterly profit driven by a pickup in deal making and surging trading. Outside of banks, Johnson & Johnson beat second quarter earnings and revenue forecasts, where the pharmaceutical giant also raised its full year guidance for several metrics. That stock is now up 6%. Meanwhile, ASML warned it may see no growth in 2026 due to increasing uncertainty from tariffs, sending shares in the semiconductor maker down by 10%. And tomorrow morning, ahead of the opening bell, we'll see more second quarter earnings from Taiwan Semiconductor, GE Aerospace, Novartis, Abbott Labs, and Pepsi. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And the trivia question we asked in the prior segment was, how many seasons was Will Ferrell a cast member of SNL? That would be 7. 7 seasons for Will Ferrell. Stephen Main is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
All right, so we have in our stack today, it's 3 different pieces talking about the Fed. And I guess given what is now being reported by multiple different
news
outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Of, hey, it appears that President Trump is honing in on potentially firing Jerome Powell. I think we need to spend a little bit of time on these. There's one from the Wall Street Journal, Dimon defends Fed independence after Trump attacks. Another one, a politically captive Fed would be a weak Fed. That from Ernie Tedeschi at the Budget Lab at Yale University. And one from Bloomberg, Hassett grabs pole position in race to be Trump's new Fed chair. As we speak, the S&P just fell another 15 points, so it's not taking this news very well. to say the least. Even worse, actually, is what's happening with the long bond. The 30-year Treasury now up 5 basis points to 5.07%. Earlier in the day, it was down 3 basis points. So you've got the long end of the yield curve not really appreciating this. And I think it's important to talk about why. Because, look, those of you who have listened to us for a day or two, you don't know anything about like how we've viewed the Fed. But if you're a longtime listener, you know that back in 2021 and 22, we pretty aggressively said the Fed is making some huge mistakes on inflation. They're behind the curve and they're doing a bad job. The last year or two, we've said that they've generally done a pretty good job since late 2023. I think they've been largely spot on in what they've needed to do. But Paul and I are not Fed apologists. Like we're pretty critical of them where needed, and we understand that they're not like geniuses or wizards or anything like that. Like they get things wrong, just like all of us, and they should be held accountable when their decisions are incorrect. Like they should be called out and said, you're not doing a good job. And in the cases where like there is really a for-cause issue with, hey, they're not performing appropriately, you could make a case that when their term expires, they should not be, renewed for another term. But generally, like I don't think I have anything in my mind in terms of any examples where Fed officials have been fired for a cause, because monetary policy is hard, is the technical term for it. So here's why central bank independence matters. And here's why you don't want... I've heard people say, like, why should the Fed be independent? Like, they're not, responsible to the electorate and this and that. And I say, yes, like that's what you want. And the reason is, if you get monetary policy wrong the way that elected officials typically want it to be conducted, which is pretty much always, hey, we want lower interest rates because obviously you want people to see cheaper borrowing costs. If you get it wrong consistently, you wind up with really bad inflation that doesn't go away, is the long and short of it. And you see this across a wide swath of different countries that have futzed around with, central bank independence in different ways, and ultimately it tends to end the same way, with borrowing costs and inflation both being very high as they try to grasp for any kind of credibility that the central bank may have. So, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, I think also to add to that point, really the crux of the U.S. financial system is predicated on this idea that there is stability and there is this sort of independence that the Fed has. The ability that we have to have the top currency in terms of trade and transaction and being stored, as well as the Treasury market, which is a bellwether for global economic lending rates, is based on sort of the stability that's in place, or this independence that the Fed has. So the privilege that the U.S. has had for decades, last a significant period of time, is because of this structure. That's what's benefited us for a long period of time and allowed borrowing costs to be relatively low because of the demand and stability that comes with the U.S. Treasury.
And if it were as simple as, hey, we're going to cut interest rates and then issue a bunch of short-term debt, guys, I'm pretty sure that Argentina would have figured that out at some point. Like they've been through enough that they would have tried it. And, I know that Brazil would have tried it. I've said this. Like, Italy would have tried it. Italy has tried it. Like you look at the history of Italy, it's basically like thousands of years of, hey, can we figure out a way to make it cheaper to borrow? And the answer is usually, not really. Like we gave it our best shot, and it ends up being just horribly financially mismanaged. So I think that when it comes to Jerome Powell, hasn't done a perfect job. If you had me grade his like 2021 and 22, probably gave him like a D. If you have me grade his, last 2 years, like late 23 through where we are now, probably give him like a B plus A minus. I think he's been really good since then. And by the way, it's not just him, it's the entire committee. Like Jay Powell doesn't wake up and set interest rates. Mm-hmm. The entire voting block of 12 people at any given point in time, they're the ones who end up doing it. So I don't know where this is going to go, but I can tell you what financial markets are saying, which is if you fire Jay Powell, and again, this is my read just based on how markets have performed in the last half hour. If you fire Jay Powell, borrowing costs are actually going to end up going up, the dollar is going to end up going down, and equities, which are dependent on both of those things, have the potential to get rinsed.
Let's talk about that briefly. The Federal Reserve, just for listeners out there, has influence on shorter-term interest rates. So when you look at money markets or any variable line of debt, that usually is heavily tied to what goes on with the Federal Reserve and their decisions on interest rate policy. What Chuck is alluding to with this idea of, hey, there's going to be higher borrowing costs, it might sound counterintuitive, right? Because the new Fed chair would come in and cut. That's on the shorter end of the curve. The longer end of the curve, when you look at mortgages and corporate borrowing, things like that, is more heavily influenced by the 10-year Treasury, which acts separate from what goes on with the Federal Reserve.
By the way, the New York Times now reporting that President Trump has drafted a letter to fire the Fed chair. So this is going beyond earlier reporting from Bloomberg. Apparently the letter is there, and he's just waiting to decide whether or not he should use it. I mean, look, when you're seeing this kind of reporting, it's kind of... It's either imminent in the next couple days or it's never going to happen is basically where this is. Like, you don't get to this level of reporting and then have it be like, well, we decided to do it in November, you know? You either get here and you're following through with it or it's not going to happen. And we're rapidly approaching that point, but markets are telling you they don't like this. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of stack roulette.
The Financial Exchange is now available every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Stay informed about the latest from Wall Street, fiscal policy, and breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Changes to Medicaid occur almost every year, and if you're not informed, your assets could be at risk, especially if you or your spouse need nursing home care. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law, and their new guide is called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll help you understand the Medicaid process, which is critically important if you're retired or getting close to retiring. The guide has important information regarding numerous strategies that can protect your assets from the nursing home. It could be your primary home, a vacation home, or any rental property you may own. You've worked hard to achieve wealth, so don't take chances when it comes to protecting it. Get your copy of Cushing & Dolan's brand new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Call right now. 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Artificial intelligence is constantly evolving and can even be a revolutionary asset to a financial strategy. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide is called AI and Your Financial Plan. In it, we explain how artificial intelligence continues to make inroads into our daily lives and how the advent of its technologies may affect an existing or future financial plan. AI serves the public in a variety of ways, from apps to monitor personal finances to tools that analyze investments. AI is not the future anymore. Its effect is felt by businesses of all kinds on a daily basis. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online by visiting us at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts, and now's the perfect time to register for this year's 5K at Castle Island by visiting dav5k.boston. The event will sell out again, so if you're interested in participating, now's the time to reserve your spot. Come out and help support our great American heroes by joining us for the DAV 5K. Visit dav5k.boston to register or to make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
Paul, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette today?
Chuck, I want to talk a little bit about the Trump accounts for kids. This is the offering here that politicians wanted to give for newborns between a period of January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028, $1,000 to start an investment account for them. Little bummed that my daughter was born on October 31st, so she will not be eligible for.
Sorry to hear that.
For this plan. I have some friends who fall in there, but the idea behind it is to put $1,000 into this account with the Treasury Department and then have low-cost mutual funds be available. But the details regarding it now, it seems like it's a little more convoluted than once was understood. It's going to be similar to that of a custodial account. UTMA is an account name that you'll thrown out there that is a custodial account, Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, which basically becomes the child's at age 18. The taxation on this is a little bit different than what you'd see with a 529 plan. That's a college savings plan where the growth on that $1,000 in that case would be tax-free if it went to a qualified tuition expense. This one here with this account would be taxable to the child at that point in time, whatever growth you saw on the fund going forward. It just seems like something that still needs a lot of work in terms of it being rolled out. I mean, we've talked about the societal stuff before. This is $1,000, as we can all attest, as parents of young children, isn't going to make a huge dent in the overall cost of raising a kid. But it's interesting. It seems like next July that you'd be able to start contributing to these plans in 2026. That's when they're anticipated to be rolled out here.
And there's still some details, I think, that they're sorting out on exactly how some of this is going to work as far as the taxation eventually. Like, there's still, because a bunch of stuff changed from the original draft to what was signed, and some of it was kind of left up to the IRS, I believe, as far as final implementation.
Yeah, and so they're thinking that it would grow tax averse. So it's almost a little bit like a retirement account for the kids, because it's going to be subject to income taxes upon withdrawal. The contribution limit, so you start off with that $1,000 from the Treasury Department. Parents and relatives and friends could theoretically contribute $5,000 a year into this with after-tax dollars, and that's a little confusing too. In a sense, you're putting in money that's after tax that's going to grow tax deferred, but then eventually become taxable. So a lot to be worked out here. Employers could also theoretically match some of these contributions as well. But there's always, of course, other options out there. But an interesting new account that has been spawned by this recent bill, something to keep an eye on.
I want to talk a little bit about home insurance costs. Obviously, we've seen, some of the more dramatic increases in places like Florida and California in the last couple of years. But according to Insurify, insurance premiums expected to go up an additional 8% in 2025. That would be another $261 on insurance premiums, and obviously in expensive markets, that can be significantly more. And this continues, I think, in my mind, to be an underappreciated story as far as how it affects the housing market, just because, in particular, I look at what's going on in Florida right now with the number of properties for sale, which is about 30% above 2019 levels. And the big thing that I hear just from anyone who's down there is, hey, when we moved down, cost of living was great. Our insurance premiums, were $3,000 a year. Now the cost of living's gone up and our insurance premiums are $12,000 a year. And we're just not sure if the financial side of things makes sense the way that it used to. And again, that's the extreme example, but even if you look at the Northeast or the Midwest or like the Pacific Northwest, insurance premiums are still rising quickly, and it's getting to the point where the magnitude is big enough that I think it starts impacting home prices in order for buyers to be able to afford their monthly payments.
It used to be a line item that you would escrow that wasn't significant to the overall cost of a house. That's becoming more and more significant in terms of its impact. And in particular with California and Florida, what we've seen with the natural disasters over the course of the last couple of years, if you're looking at sort of the blame pie or what is causing a significant impact to the Florida housing market, I would rank, Chuck, this has got to be number one or number two if you're pointing to a reason as why is there so much glut of inventory in Florida. First was perhaps an overbuild from some of the demand post-pandemic, but also the reason why you're seeing, I've talked with clients about this, these properties being listed for such a long period of time is I don't want to purchase a house that you were mentioning that, hey, maybe has seen an increase in homeowners insurance costs of $6,000 or $7,000. What does the next 10 years look like in terms of these increases? Because these hurricanes are not going anywhere. And also what's not talked about besides the cost aspect is just the headaches that I've heard from clients dealing with getting claims on their existing homeowners insurance current policies when a hurricane has come through. They've had to fight with them legally. There's been a lot of hesitancy on the insurer's part to, deploy a certain amount for a claim. It's that's the other issue that you fight there too in the Florida property market.
And then you just see what happens to your premiums the next year after you file that claim, and you're like, oh, how did this happen? The only solution that I'm seeing for a lot of people is to jack up deductibles significantly, but that doesn't necessarily make sense in a lot of cases either, because if you can't end up paying that deductible and covering that cost, then you're out of luck anyways. So it's a really messy, really challenging situation, but I'm not really sure how to resolve this, and I don't know what the fix is at this point. Taking a look at markets, we remain choppy in trading, with the S&P now reversing what had been about a 40-point sell-off, this in the last 15, 20 minutes now, and now is down 2 points. The NASDAQ is off 48 points, and the Dow is actually still up 51 points. The long end of the yield curve, which had been selling off, is now back to seeing money flowing into it, and the dollar has stabilized. So I'm guessing this means that in the last minute while I was talking, we must have heard something from the White House indicating that they are not going to fire Jay Powell. Because half an hour ago when when reporting on the letter that was drafted came out, this was all moving in a different direction. So very choppy, very messy. We'll see you tomorrow and let you know what happened then.